Bienvenue. Bienvenue à la cérémonie d'ouverture de l'année académique 2023-2024 du Collège d'Europe, promotion Madeleine Albright. It is really a pleasure, an honor for me to welcome you all, Mr. President, Madam Ambassador, Mr. President, dear guests, faculty, staff, colleagues, and most of all, if you allow me, dear students. It is really a special moment. I know you've been here already for a few weeks, that seem already a few years probably, but this is the moment where we officially open our academic year and we celebrate the joining together for this extraordinary experience. I'm sure that this will be an exciting year with challenges and interesting moments ahead of us. You will be spending at the college an electoral year for the European Union, and not only. And you come here gathered with all your diversity, 48 different national backgrounds, and many more if you look at the individual backgrounds that you carry with you. And we're very proud of this diversity that the college can gather every year and forging a unique esprit de corps that would allow you to then succeed in your personal and hopefully also for sure, professional lives. It is also an exciting year for the college. The college is constantly changing, modernizing, expanding. This year, the college runs in parallel with your programs, also the second year of the pilot project for the European Diplomatic Academy. Let me salute the young diplomats that are with us today for that program. And also we are expanding because in a few weeks we will start being operational in Tirana for the opening of a new branch of the College of Europe, which is quite an historic step for the college and I believe an historic achievement for the countries in the region and beyond. But as the college evolves, modernizes, expands, grows, we stay also true to our identity, to our DNA, and to our mission. Staying true to our DNA is keeping the community, the family. Each of us here, being it students, staff, faculty, guests, feels part of a community. We are here as individuals committing to being part of a family. And putting all our energy into what we're doing. And we stay true to our mission that is stated clearly in our statutes, very ancient statutes that date back to 1949, where it's clearly mentioned that the college mission is to contribute to the European integration, and this is what we do every day, each of us in different roles. So this is the official beginning of your journey, where you would have the opportunity not only to study Europe, but also to live Europe and to shape Europe. Feel this responsibility, and we will be proud to accompany you along the way. Without further ado, let me start with this official opening, and I'm very pleased and honored to give the floor to the President of our Administrative Council, Herman VAN ROMPUY. Mr. President, la parole à vous.
Mr. President, Madam Ambassador, Madam Rector, ladies and gentlemen, dear students, Bruges connects the new with the old. The glory of yesterday as a port city with its golden time already in the 13th century, combined with its role as today's big energy port in a union that no longer wants to be too dependent on one supplier following the Russian invasion. And this college also connects old and new. It was founded when the European Community had only 6 members, the time of the pioneers, the time of idealists who saw their dream realized during their lifetime. But the new is also here today, with the President of the Czech Republic, an EU member state, but occupied by the Soviet Union for decades, say, by Russia. The patroness of this promotion is named after the other great Czech, Madeleine Albright, who later became US Secretary of State, but who cherished her origins and who later witnessed the unexpected but hoped-for liberation of her homeland. Our Europe, notre Europe, comme le dirait Jacques Delors, our Europe is more meaningful than ever in times of war on the very borders of the European Union. The Union is the greatest peace project in human history. We all are the children and grandchildren of peace. The price we paid for it are the graves of millions of soldiers and civilians so cherished around Ypres, in what in Flanders we call the Westhoek, the West Corner. And Ukraine is also paying such an absurd price, and they too, as a future member of the Union, will be rewarded for the suffering and the death of so many, especially young people. Their deaths must not be in vain. No matter how young they are, they will be the fathers and mothers of freedom. The College of Europe is more than an educational institution. Besides knowledge, it conveys values, the values of humanity, of personalism, in which every human being counts wherever he or she comes from. Each person is literally worthwhile. But besides a head and a heart, the college also has a soul, arising from the chemistry created by the meeting of people from nearly 50 countries. It snatches you out of the small world we all live in. Europe transcends us. You will leave Bruges within a year as different and better persons, more open, more tolerant. You will leave Bruges as more convinced Europeans, and above all, with friends who have shared a part of your young life. It's also about staying in a city on a human scale. The college is a place of knowledge and ideals, but above all, it's a life experience. There are already enough negative emotions revolving around fear, insecurity, violence, anger, jealousy, around war and climate disasters. The college wants to help turn fear into hope. And we want to work with the academic community, with all other staff, with all of you, to create a climate of hope. Hope is a verb. We want hope. Dear students, the college is alive and kicking, with its branches in this good city of Bruges and in Natolin near Warsaw, with its new diplomatic academy, and with new plans to plant our flag elsewhere as well. Dear students, I wish you a happy stay. With your new friends, make it one of the best years of your lives. Good luck, and as the French say, bon vent. Merci.
President Van Rompuy, dear Rector Mogherini, thank you for this opportunity to address the students and the guests in Bruges. Your Excellency President Pavel, Excellencies, distinguished guests, professors and staff members, and dear students of the Madeleine Albright promotion, congratulations on joining the ranks of the College of Europe community in these turbulent yet decisive times. Times that require strength and wisdom. To paraphrase the patron of this promotion, the time has come to move beyond dreaming to doing. The strength of contemporary Europe lies in its history and its adherence to values and ideals. East Central Europe, which is Natolin's location and home of His Excellency President Pavel and Madeleine Albright's family as well, has always been part of this process. This part of our continent has sometimes been a periphery, sometimes a borderland, sometimes a near abroad, and sometimes the center of key events for the whole of Europe. It was here that the First and Second World Wars broke out, here that the Cold War started and ended, and here that communism collapsed. It was also here that people went hand in hand, rebuilding their countries and reshaping their societies, moving forward from a command economy to a free market, from totalitarianism to democracy, and from uniformity to diversity. This path of transformation led to the greatest enlargement of the European Union, which indeed unified Europe and gave it a new impetus. East Central Europe is, in fact, a place where so many concepts have been questioned so often. Borders, regimes, identities, property, security. It is also a place where commitment to universal values has often demanded a high price to be paid. The price of rejection, brutal persecution, and forced emigration, which was also part of young Maria Jana Korbelova's life, this promotion's patron. Dear friends, freedom, justice, and dignity all come at a price. I am deeply convinced that both the private and professional lives of Secretary Albright, with all her undeniable achievements and all possible mistakes, can provide enough evidence of this very truth. Dear students, I take this opportunity to invite you to Natolin, where you will experience this part of the European story that is a path to understanding its present, so you may in turn shape its future. History may be written in retrospect, but is lived forwards. Dear students, this year the College of Europe will develop your inner voice that tells us to move beyond dreaming to doing. Develop that voice and do not be silent. Thank you.
Madeleine Albright visited the college quite recently in Natolin, and it was a very emotional moment, not only for the college community, but also for all of us, and for her for sure, because it was for her a way of going back close to home. This is traditionally in our opening ceremonies the moment where the rector gives quite a long speech, normally, to tell and introduce the patron and share his or her own views about what kind of messages the patron of this promotion gives to you, and what are the guiding lines that the patron would represent for you. This year, I have decided to share this task, this honor, with actually the two guests we have today. Our keynote speaker, President Petr PAVEL, will be introduced briefly in a short time by one of you. But let me say how honored I am to host him today at the college opening ceremony. We used indeed to sit next to each other at the NATO ministerial meetings whenever the European Union and NATO had joint sessions. And from that time, I remember his dedication not only to the security on the European continent, but also today in his role as President of Czechia. his commitment to democracy, freedom, rule of law, and European integration. And I'm really honored that we can host him here today. Mr. President, thank you very much for having accepted our invitation. And obviously, having him today is also a way to honor the country and the city where Madeleine Albright was born and spent the very first years of her life. But also I'm going to share this privilege of introducing Madeleine Albright with someone that was a friend of hers and probably a mentee, the permanent representative of the United States to NATO, Ambassador Julianne SMITH. Before giving her the floor, let me explain, because I think this is my responsibility as a rector, why Madeleine Albright is your patron, is our patron this year. Well, first of all, because some of your predecessors, some of the alumni and faculty members and staff indicated their name in a procedure that now is established. You might know this. Since I started as a rector, I decided to keep the prerogative of deciding which is the patron for the following year, but I would ask your advice, and you would also have the opportunity, approximately around the winter break, to indicate names of individuals that you believe are inspiring guides and figures to work on the integration of the European continent under the good relations with our partners. So the name of Madeleine Albright was indicated by several of the students and the alumni and the professors of last year. But there are other reasons behind that that brought me to choose her name. The names indicated were many, were approximately 300 personalities, and I guess my mandate will not last 300 years so that I can honor all of them, but they were very good names. But there are specific reasons why I thought Madeleine was a perfect patron for this promotion. Well, first of all, because yes, she was an American citizen, but she was born in Europe, and she was actually a European refugee to the United States. And she writes in one of her books, Madam Secretary, have a look at that, read it if you haven't done so yet. She writes that for her, the symbol of the Statue of Liberty has always meant the promise that it is meant to represent. That it was for her the place where she could find freedom in times where Europe was in a different place than today. She actually fled Czechoslovakia twice for two different reasons that at the end of the day were probably not so different. So she was somehow a European refugee that became the first woman Secretary of State in the United States. So a history that I think is inspiring for many of us. But there are very concrete ways in which she contributed to the European integration, because you don't necessarily need to operate within the European Union to contribute to the European integration. And the contribution that she gave all along her life to advancing the European integration has been extraordinary. Think of the transatlantic bond, think of all her commitment to freedom, democracy, rule of law in Europe, in particular in her own region in Europe. The last article she published just a few months before dying was all about how to fight against authoritarianism that seemed to be on the rise in many parts of the world, including in Europe. And she was sharing words of hope on the fact that this would have been reverted and that there is a future that is brighter for democracy and freedom across the world and in Europe. But there is maybe a reason, an additional reason for which, for me, it was important to have her as a patron this year. And this is because she has been a role model, she is an inspiration, and I think she has been one of the main empowering factors of so many women around the world. So many girls, women of age, giving a strength and giving a model, giving energy that is difficult to compare with others. And let me share with you an anecdote that I just shared with Ambassador Smith coming here. I met her for the first time. For me, she was Madam Secretary. I was very humbled, and I was I just started as an Italian foreign minister, and I was the youngest Italian foreign minister. I felt a little bit of a pressure, she told me, relax, it's okay. I've been there. I know what you are going through. It's not you. It's the system that is putting pressure on you. You're okay. You're exactly in the place where you should be. It's okay. It's going to be okay. You have a friend here. Turn to me whenever I can be of any help. And she wrote me down this in a note. And for me, this was a message, because I thought, well, if she has felt this way and she's a giant, then it's going to be okay. Then I'm going to make it somehow. And then she told me, you know, after a few weeks, then I was in office, colleagues were telling me, Madeline, you're gaining weight. And she told me she replied to them, no, I'm not gaining weight. It's my skin that is getting thicker. And I felt that so many of us could connect to that feeling of, you know, having things on your shoulders that you have the impression sometimes they are a bit too much and too heavy, but at the end of the day you will make it, and you do make it. So I think that she and her being this extraordinary role model for all women in leadership positions, or aspiring to have some leadership positions, is very much needed in our societies and our world today. I will conclude with just sharing a couple of sentences that she wrote. One is in her book, is the very last sentences of Madam Secretary, and that goes like this. She wrote, "People sometimes ask me how I want to be remembered. I reply," she had a great sense of humor, "I reply that I don't want to be remembered, I am still here. But when the day comes, I hope people will say that I did the best with what I was given, tried to make my parents proud, served my country with all the energy I had, and took a strong stand on the side of freedom. Perhaps some will also say that I helped teach a generation of older women to stand tall, and young women not to be afraid to interrupt." And in the very last article she published in December 21, she wrote something that I think can be a message also for you. She wrote, "The time is right for democratic forces to regain the initiative. Democracy is fragile, but it is also resilient. In every region, the generation coming of age," that's you, "is smart, outspoken and fearless. Worldwide, people are demanding more. And although tattered and torn, freedom's flag is ready to rise." I think these words of hope from someone that has seen the best, but also probably also the worst of human nature in foreign policy, are something that can guide you in your journey here at the college, but also beyond. With that, I'm sorry, I spoke, as usual, much longer than I expected to do. It is my great pleasure to give the floor to Ambassador Julianne SMITH. Thank you very much.
Well, Rector, Madam Rector, Mr. President, distinguished guests, faculty, students, it's such an honor to be here today and have a chance to talk about Madeleine Albright's life and her legacy. But it's not an easy assignment, as her achievements as the U.S. Ambassador at the United Nations and as our first female Secretary of State were so many. And her achievements didn't stop with her government service. She was an admired and much sought after professor, the founding partner of her own global consulting firm, a chief advisor on several political campaigns, a devoted mother of 3 girls, and the author of 7 best-selling books. I'm afraid that 10 minutes is just too short to fully capture the impact that she had on U.S. foreign policy and world affairs. So instead of attempting to list all of her countless contributions, or even just to highlight a few, I thought maybe I'd talk today about Madeleine Albright's overarching value set. Who was Madeleine Albright as a person? What did she stand for? And what were the themes that ran throughout her entire career, from the time that she entered public service in her late 30s age 39, to her time in the Clinton administration, serving up in New York at the UN and at the State Department, to her many positions in the private and nonprofit sectors later in her career. And let me share for you today 6 things that stand out for me when I think about Madeleine Albright. First, Madeleine Albright was an Atlanticist and an ardent defender of the transatlantic relationship, in part because her remarkable life history was its own transatlantic story. She immigrated to the United States from then Czechoslovakia in 1948 when she was just 11 years old. She worked hard in those early years to assimilate and adopt many American traditions. She talks about struggling to speak with an American accent and getting rid of her British accent. And she talks about even learning how to chew bubble gum like a real American. But throughout college and in her early professional years, she remained a committed Atlanticist, deeply familiar with the histories, the languages, and cultures on both sides of the Atlantic, and determined to maintain close ties even in the darkest times. Much of her tenure as Secretary of State was focused on Europe that was whole, free, and at peace. She passionately promoted NATO enlargement and was instrumental in the admission of Czechia, Poland, and Hungary. She also spent much of her tenure as Secretary of State bringing peace to the Balkans and implementing the Dayton Accords. While she worked on many other regional issues, transatlantic unity remained the centerpiece of her agenda. I first met Madeleine Albright in the early 2000s after she had left the State Department as Secretary of State, and at a time when Europe and the United States were deeply divided over the Iraq War, the War on Terror, Kyoto Protocol, and a long list of other issues. She enlisted my help with a new project she was launching at the Aspen Institute in Washington to try to put the transatlantic partnership back on track. What stood out for me in those first few days of getting to know her was her unwavering belief in the transformative power of transatlantic unity and cooperation. It was the guiding light in everything that she did up until she passed away last year. Second, Madeleine Albright was a lifelong defender of democracy, no doubt inspired by her father, Joseph Korbel, who in his letter to then Secretary of State Dean Acheson, asking for political asylum in the United States in the late 1940s, wrote, "I cannot return to the communist Czechoslovakia as I would be arrested for my faithful adherence to the ideals of democracy." His books about the fragility of democracy and the Albright family's conversations around the dinner table about Stalin, about the Holocaust, and the disruption that war could cause clearly left their mark on Madeleine Albright. Throughout her career as Secretary of State, as the chairman of the National Democratic Institute, and as an American citizen, defending democracy at home and abroad became another one of her guiding principles. My friend Bill Antholis at the University of Virginia perhaps captured it best by saying that Madeleine Albright helped enlarge democracy following the end of the Cold War and then defended it further in recent years. Third, Madeleine Albright was a deep believer in bipartisanship. She saw no value in demonizing the other side, even when she felt compelled to make her own politics known. She actively and quite aggressively built relationships across the aisle, as we say, to find pragmatic solutions to a long list of global challenges. Perhaps her most famous exercise in bipartisanship was her surprise friendship with Senator Jesse Helms, a Republican from North Carolina who found little to no value in the United Nations and adamantly opposed one of the Clinton administration's chief foreign policy goals of ratifying the Chemical Weapons Convention. Instead of throwing her hands up and walking away, Madeleine Albright worked tirelessly to gain his support for Senate ratification of the treaty. She visited Senator Helms in his home in North Carolina. She sent him a T-shirt that said, "Someone at the State Department loves me," and debated the finer points of the treaty until the senator eventually relented. In that episode and so many others, she always heralded bipartisanship. She said the ties that bind America are far stronger than disagreements over any particular policy and far more durable and profound than any party affiliation. Fourth, Madeleine Albright was a remarkable role model and mentor for women and girls, as we just heard. Wherever she went, she pulled women together and lifted them up. At the UN, when she was serving there as permanent representative, when she realized that out of over 180 countries, there were just 6 female ambassadors, she formed what she called the G7 caucus and ensured that they met monthly to not only support one another, but to develop important projects. As just one example, the group set up war crime tribunals for the Balkans that declared that rape was a weapon of war. As Secretary of State, she made women's issues central to U.S. foreign policy, pairing it with her other passion of democracy promotion, given her belief that democracies simply didn't work when women were treated as second-class citizens. And just as she did at the UN, she convened female foreign ministers at UNGA every year that she was Secretary of State. Beyond the policy work that she did on women's issues, she spoke openly and often about the challenges of finding her own voice, and she encouraged women to not only speak up, but to occasionally interrupt. Fifth, Madeleine Albright was a risk taker. Ever since she was a young girl, she consistently bucked conventional thinking. The head mistress at her high school cautioned against applying to too many universities. But Madeleine Albright applied to several universities and in fact received scholarships at every single one of them. During her years at college, women of that era were often encouraged to get married and consider somewhat less ambitious careers as secretaries. Of course, we know how that ended. She became Secretary of State. At the State Department in 2000, some of her colleagues weren't so sure that she should go and directly engage the North Koreans, but she did it anyway. Similarly, Congress wanted her to skip the Fourth World Conference on Women in China in 1996. Too risky, they said, but she went anyways. Now, if she were here today, Madeleine Albright would be the first to tell you that taking risks doesn't always lead to successful outcomes. She never had trouble admitting that she sometimes got things wrong, but she was fond of saying that taking risks is a precursor to reward, even in an increasingly uncertain world, and she lived by those words. Finally, Madeleine Albright was incredibly generous and outright fun. She had a fabulous dry sense of humor and was never afraid to laugh at herself. She liked to dance and once taught the Macarena to Botswana's ambassador at the UN. And if you don't believe me, Google it. She played the drums. She had fun with pins on every lapel, sending sometimes blatant, sometimes cryptic messages about her moods to foreign leaders, depending on whether she was wearing a serpent or a butterfly. Her generosity had no bounds. She frequently hosted policy salons in her Georgetown row house. She always made time for her students, and she loved, as we just heard, sending personal handwritten notes to thank colleagues for even the most minor contributions to her work. Again, it's hard to capture the life of a woman that had such a supersized impact on the world of diplomacy, but those are the 6 traits I will most remember about Madeleine Albright and the 6 traits that I hope will continue to inspire the students that are here with us today. I think of Madeleine Albright so often in my current position at NATO, and I sometimes wonder what she'd be doing and saying right now in the face of so many global challenges and so much uncertainty. I know she'd be incredibly troubled by Russia's ongoing war of aggression in Ukraine. I know she would intuitively understand what's at stake, that Ukrainians are not only defending their territory, but also the values that we all hold so dear. She'd stress the critical importance of transatlantic unity, and she'd fight for it. She'd be worried about our upcoming election in the United States, but even in our rather toxic political climate at the moment, I know she'd be reaching out to Republicans to find common ground. She'd be preparing the next generation of diplomats for new challenges by helping them understand the past. And she'd call for a little levity by making a few jokes, telling us one of her hilarious self-deprecating stories, and encouraging us to dance or play the drums. Thank you.
Sorry, I was distracted. It was so moving, and yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing this, and I hope that now it is also much clearer for those that might have wondered why an American is patron of the College of Europe. Why is that so? Thank you, Ambassador Smith. Thank you, Julian. And now it is time for me to invite on stage a very important part of this ceremony, and also a very important part of our life in this year that starts in these weeks, and that is the student representatives. You elected them, they just started in their role. I want to immediately, from the outset, thank them for the responsibility that they've taken. I promise it will not be too hard, but we will be working a lot together, and I count a lot, we all count a lot on you to contribute to improving even more the college life in all its different aspects. So I'm very grateful for you to take this responsibility on you. And so let me ask Hélène and Carl to join us on stage.
Dear esteemed guests, dear students, this is the EU flag. This is our flag. This flag represents hope and opportunities, but also challenges. But I am proud that this is our flag and we can call it our flag. I am proud of our flag because the EU has shown that it can make a fist against authoritarianism. Our Ukrainian brothers and sisters, fellow Europeans, are currently protecting the borders of democracy against the armies of tyranny. The EU has made an historical effort to support Ukraine. However, this support must continue. We do not tolerate dictators in Europe, and we never will, and Madeleine Albright would have been proud of that statement. And the EU should not be afraid to follow this path and become the arsenal of democracy. I am proud that this is our flag, because the EU has made the fight against climate change its top priority. The EU Green Deal is the most ambitious climate policy package in the world, covering all sectors and all regions of Europe. Furthermore, it ensures that the green transition will leave no one behind. However, more action is needed, and it is needed fast. We see climate change much more rapidly than we expected, even in Belgium. Last month, this September, was the hottest one ever recorded, even though some of you might find that difficult to believe. But this is proof that we must act now to stop global warming. I am proud of our flag because of the values it represents: equality, democracy, diversity. Even though there is still a lot of work to be done, like my colleague will tell you soon, the EU has made tangible progress in these areas which we should cherish. Next year, there will be European elections, and many are afraid because extremism and populism is on the rise. But I'm not. I'm not, because I know a whole new generation of young people like you and me will stand up. Young people like us who want to fight for climate change, because we do not want to live on a boiling planet, do we? Young people like us who want to protect democracy and make a fist against tyranny, because we do not accept dictators. Young people like us who want to increase diversity, because we truly understand its strengths and opportunities. Young people across Europe and across the world, not only in the EU, have been carrying this flag because of what it stands for. It is our symbol, our hope, and our mission, and hopefully theirs in the future as well. Long live Europe et vive l'Europe.
Democracy is about organizing peaceful and thriving togetherness. And in an increasingly diverse continent, those working to advance European democracy must represent this diversity. Their experiences, their voices, their reality must be reflected in the spaces shaping policies affecting the whole continent. And the college is an institution that ambitions to feed such spaces has an immense responsibility to foster diversity. We all know the motto of the European Union, united in diversity. Yet, criticisms on the reflection of diversity at political level persist, especially regarding ethnic and sexual minorities. As potential future contributors of EU integration, it is therefore crucial for us to strive for diversity and inclusion by bringing forward the diversity of the Madeleine Albright promotion. From the different colors of our skin to the various cultures and traditions we come from, it is our differences that make us special and unique. But it is not enough to recognize and appreciate these differences. It is vital that we also strive for unity, for it is only through agreement that we can truly thrive as a society. For this purpose, keeping an open mind and being curious remain crucial. Be proud of being different and approach those who might seem different than you. For my part, I am proud to contribute to the quest for diversity at the college by being the first student from Madagascar since at least 2007. Crazy, right? This reflects the harsh reality of the difficulties faced in attracting and reflecting the true diversity present in the EU. Yet, I am a proof that ethnic minorities have their place here. Take a look around you. You all have a place and play an important role in driving Europe forward and keeping diversity alive. I am honored and proud to look at this promotion's student representatives, which you will see wearing a nice sash, because you have elected and trusted a diverse and yet already united team. The diversity represented by this team reflects a common wish and the feeling of urgency to further promote and bring forward this diversity. By embracing our differences, we will enhance our unique experience at the college by learning from one another and develop a deeper understanding and appreciation of the world around us. If we achieve to be united in diversity, we become more receptive to fresh viewpoints and ways of thinking, and thereby advance both as a society and as individuals. Let's celebrate our differences, share knowledge, and cooperate to create a brighter future for all. As our patron de promotion, Madeleine Albright, once said, we must be authors of the history of our age. Thank you.
Esteemed faculty, honored guests, and dear students of the Madeleine Albright promotion. Hello from Natolin. My name is Noor, and I am the General Coordinator of the Student Representatives.
Je m'appelle Anatole et je suis le responsable des affaires académiques et des langues au sein du Conseil des représentants étudiants de Natolin.
It is with extreme pleasure that we are sending you this message from the vibrant and diverse student body at the Natolin campus of the College of Europe. As we embark together on this cross-border and cross-cultural academic journey, it is crucial not to forget that we are the future.
Un futur de l'Europe au-delà des frontières et des différences abstraites. Voici les valeurs que nous défendons et que nous continuerons à défendre aussi bien à Natolin, ici, qu'à Bruges. Nous représentons aussi, pour la plupart, une génération qui a bénéficié plus que les précédentes de tout ce que la construction européenne a pu nous offrir. La mobilité internationale, les aides financières de nature diverse, ou une législation plus juste et équitable pour toutes et tous. C'est désormais à nous d'enrichir et de participer à cette construction. Car comme disait Jacques Delors, pour que l'Union européenne fonctionne, il faut la solidarité qui unit et la coopération qui renforce.
In the light of the substantial challenges facing Europe, underscored by unwavering and noble values, it is crucial to recognize that each one of us possesses valuable perspectives capable of enriching the discourse. Let us not lose sight of those among us who face difficulties and those who cannot join us due to the absence of mobility and the opportunity to voice their thoughts. We extend a special thought to Navid from Iran, who is unable to join us here in NATO. However, on the brighter side, we maintain our enthusiasm for you to join us on campus. We look forward to building upon the experiences of previous promotions and fostering a bridge of sustained and consistent communication. As we embark on this journey, let unity be our compass, diversity be our strength. After all, the College of Europe is two campuses who beat as one.
His Excellency President Pavel, Her Excellency Ambassador Smith, Director Mogherini, President Van Rompuy, honored guests, dear college staff and fellow students. It is a tremendous honor to address all of you today, and one of those moments that we will never forget. If some months ago we all appeared before our selection committees to become college students, now we are experiencing one of the most important moments in our entire year, the academic ceremony. Since its foundation in 1949 by leading European figures such as Winston Churchill, Paul Spaak, or Salvador de Madariaga, the college has proven to be one of the perfect examples of the European integration, an institution where any of us, regardless of our nationality, sexual orientation, common languages, and also religion and social class, will study together as Europeans, united in diversity. En Europe, on a tous la chance de bénéficier des libertés politiques et du progrès économique. Nous jouissons des libertés civiles grâce à des systèmes juridiques qui protègent nos droits fondamentaux et garantissent l'élection de nos représentants par le peuple. L'Europe est aussi une puissance économique et géopolitique, mais surtout en Europe, on a des systèmes de protection sociale qui garantissent que personne n'est oublié en raison de son statut économique ou social. C'est pour ces modèles de liberté, progrès, mais aussi d'égalité, uniquement que nous devons pas seulement remercier nos parents, mais aussi travailler chaque jour. And how to protect our European model? First of all, by being aware of how lucky we are. And secondly, but not taking it for granted. In these times when we experience war on European soil, we pay tribute to all those soldiers and army members who dedicate their lives to protecting us and therefore defending Europe. President Pavel is one of those Europeans who committed his entire life to safeguarding our European way of living. President Pavel graduated from the Army College in 1983 and has spent much of his military career in Special Forces operations and intelligence divisions. Throughout his career, President Pavel has held various positions, from Deputy Military Attaché of the Czech Republic in Belgium to Deputy Director of Operations and the Minister of Defense. In addition, President Pavel has also held positions in international and national joint teams, representing the Czech Republic on the National Military Representative to the United States Central Command, and also as a national military representative to the European Union. Furthering his education in the United Kingdom, President Pavel has studied at the Royal College of Defence Studies and also obtained a Master of Arts in International Relations from King's College London. If this weren't enough, President Pavel was appointed Chief of the General Staff of the Czech Armed Forces and also was elected Chairman of the NATO Military Committee. President Pavel is highly esteemed as a true example of sacrifice and courage. While serving with the United Nations peacekeeping troops in former Yugoslavia, he led an operation where 50 French soldiers were evacuated from a combat zone. He was awarded the French Légion d'honneur and the Czech Medal for Heroism. Moreover, he holds more than 12 decorations and awards, such as the Service for Peace badge. After his retirement from the army in 2018, President Pavel founded the Stronger Together initiative with the aim of helping people linked with the fight against COVID pandemic in the Czech Republic. In 2022, President Pavel announced his intention to run for the presidential campaign, becoming the fourth president of the Czech Republic in March 2023. If we could think that he is the Nietzsche superhuman, le superhomme or el superhombre de Nietzsche en español, President Pavel is also a father and loves traveling, motorsports and photography. Both patron Madeleine Albright and President Pavel embody the Czech contribution and hence an European one to the transatlantic bond between Europe and North America, a partnership of vital importance for the security of our continent. Therefore, I make the most of this opportunity to thank you on behalf of the standing body for a life devoted to Europe. Mr. President, thank you very much for coming to the College of Europe and for coming to Bruges. It is a great pleasure to have you here today, and we are all impatient of hearing your thoughts. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for this generous introduction. Dear Rector Mogherini, Ambassador Smith, President Van Rompuy, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and especially dear students from almost 50 countries. What a privilege to address a quarter of the world countries in one place. Let me first start with thanking Rector Mogherini for inviting me to this fine institution, long time established and well serving not only European but also other countries' future. That's you, young people, and also inviting me to this beautiful city of Bruges. Opening the 23-24 academic year of the College of Europe is an ideal opportunity to address a specific audience, a group of people who are best placed to assume responsibility of our common future in the years to come, both within the European and national framework. In many ways, we experience the European Union as a daily reality. At the same time, this is no matter of course. From the outset, the Union has faced a wishful prediction of its failure. Time and again, the project has proved to be more resilient than expected. It is fair to expect that the upcoming times are going to be no less rough. Skeptical voices are on the rise. This is true even for some founding EU member states and traditional strongholds of European integration. Today, Europe and the wider world are confronted with a multitude of challenges. All of them will sound familiar to you. We find ourselves in an increasingly antagonistic international environment. No security threat is more pressing than the Russian aggression, no geopolitical challenge more demanding than an assertive China and its appeal to many countries. We are facing the whole spectrum of non-conventional threats. Our economies have been fragilized. In the long term, we experience a rapid transformation of industry and labor, which is turning our everyday lives into unfamiliar territory. Above all of this, the climate crisis looms large, amplifying major concerns such as environmental degradation, food insecurity, and illegal migration. Understandably, this generates anxiety and anger among people. This is what populists thrive on in their pursuit of power. Despite the daunting challenge, there is no reason for despair. The key takeaway from the Czech presidential elections held earlier this year is indeed that it is possible to succeed on a moderate platform. Without a doubt, this is the only beginning of the journey. But I am confident that together we can show that open societies can deliver, both on domestic and international arenas. The core message of my address today is that we would be worse off if it was not for European integration and a wider strategic unity of the world's democracies. In view of a safe and prosperous future, the European Union and the Transatlantic Alliance are our best bet. Much has been written about Europe's defining traits. The late Milan Kundera once described the European paradigm as maximum diversity in minimum space. Yes, though culturally diverse and politically fragmented, in the past, Europe builds on a common heritage. This heritage has its bright side and its ugly side, as well as noble ideas and moral imperatives. Europe carries with it the memory of intolerance, wars, and horrors of totalitarian regimes. In Czechia, this heritage is on our mind. For Madeleine Albright, my famous compatriot, who is the patron of your promotion, fragility of democracy was first-hand experience. Throughout her life, therefore, Madeleine Albright, just like our first Czech president and her close friend Václav Havel, was also aware of the extent of our shared responsibility. They both knew the price of indifference for the fate of people in countries affected by domestic conflicts or foreign aggression. Today, we are witnessing the end of globalization as we know it and the resurgence of geopolitics. This requires us to work together with our closest allies on a resilient and robust political community. For Europeans, this means that we need to strengthen our sense of common strategic interest. In 2012, Many were sceptical when the EU was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Looking at the instability in our immediate neighbourhood, we now see how this was a justified choice. In order to safeguard peace and strengthen our security in all its forms, we need a more efficient Europe. We have important allies. First and foremost, the United States. Occasional differences in perspective should not obscure that we share a long-term strategic interests. The United States is a key security partner. There is no alternative to the NATO security architecture in which the United States continue to play an essential role. Once again, Madeleine Albright's role in advocating for NATO's Eastern enlargement in the 1990s, both within the Democratic Party and the US administration, cannot be emphasized enough. Despite the romantic aspirations of the day to break up military blocs and occasional European dreams of security autonomy, Albright proved visionary. Thanks to Madame Albright, Europe is more whole, free and at peace, with the painful exception of those countries which have been so far left behind. It is only desirable that our strategic cooperation with the US is as broad as possible. Besides security, we should not shy away from the admittedly difficult effort to liberalize trade and perhaps expand the scope of the Trade and Technology Council. United we stand, divided we fall. To the astonishment of naysayers, our united stand against Russian aggression so far, both in NATO and the EU, has proven that we are able to prevail. Russia's aggression is truly a watershed moment. It has upended a whole range of EU policies. Others need a major overhaul. Czechia was at the helm of these efforts in 2022. Our second EU Council presidency was crucial in finding a concrete policy response to the Russian challenge in many areas, in particular the energy crisis. We have proven that we can be relied on. This is true not just of our presidency, but also of our response to Ukraine's needs. Building on this, I believe Czechia can bolster its European contribution. Central Europe can be a driver of positive change. There is no more geopolitical policy than enlargement policy. The new geopolitical imperative asks for a new enlargement dynamic. For too long, we have left some European countries at the mercy of geopolitical manipulation. The ambition is clear. We must complete the European and, where desired, the Atlantic integration of the Western Balkans and the associated trio. As I said at the United Nations General Assembly 2 weeks ago, Czechia is aware of its responsibility. We are committed to ensuring that no one is left behind. A true change in the mindset needs to be carried through. In the same time, in the name of our long-term interest, we must dare a leap. The frustration and growing alienation in some European countries is a genuine liability. We can draw our lesson from the far-sighted observation made by Václav Havel in a 1999 speech in the French Senate. Back then, he was referring to the EU accession of Central European countries. Havel reminded us that, and I quote, opportunity that is now opening before Europe, the chance for a lasting peace and security, will be fulfilled only when everyone is allowed to participate. Havel also warned against distrust towards at that time, new democracies. And I quote, "If there is a fear that they might consume too large a piece of the cake, or if there is an overall fear of them as of something new and difficult to fathom," Havel went on to say, "Europe will once again begin to divide, and this new division will soon become a much more serious reason for alarm than the novelty or the unrefined state of today's past communist democracies." End of quote. We should not postpone enlargement until some hypothetical point in the future when candidate countries are perfectly aligned with us. Enlargement is a goal which enhances, not undermines, our security and serves as the stability of democracies. Our criteria must be transparent and achievable. Where possible, we need a credible schedule. At the same time, we must not compromise on our principles and shared values enshrined in the treaties, namely respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. My country knows where it can add the value. EU accession is a process we have been through. We are already working to share our experience with the candidate countries and are ready to do more to help them with reforms. This is also the driving force behind my meeting with the leaders from the Western Balkans and Eastern Europe. We must create incentives to facilitate the process. In the first place, this will require a more flexible approach. There are already promising proposals on the table. Let us explore ways of opening certain policies to candidates and increasing their presence in decision shaping. Obviously, the enlargement debate is linked to efficiency, not a particularly popular subject matter in smaller and middle-sized member states. We all should be ready to look at the various proposals to improve the governability of the EU in our domestic discussion, including the shift to qualified majority vote in some area. We need to raise awareness that stability and power, that is to say, our collective ability to act, are in our shared interest. Another policy area I wish to highlight is European defence. The dominant role of NATO as a security provider must no longer mean that Europe neglects its defence obligations. It is imperative to strengthen the European pillar of NATO and enhance European interoperability. Very likely, we will have to go beyond the 2% spending goal on defence. Reducing the reliance on the US and developing European strategic enablers is to be seen as our contribution to our transatlantic partnership. I have briefly touched upon the new geopolitical urgency and its ramifications for the enlargement and defence policies. In the long run, the inner resilience of our societies is the core element of our success or failure. We must focus on elements which erode trust, the fabric holding our societies together. Let us carefully uphold the European democratic model, our democratic culture, and the willingness to meaningfully engage with citizens. I wish to turn democratic resilience into one of the central themes of my presidency, and I plan to organize a conference in Prague on this subject. Trust is a precious asset. Our people must know that no country, no region, and no citizen is left behind. We must reduce inequalities and proceed in an inclusive manner. Among other things, this is why cohesion policy has been so important to transforming countries like Czechia. Now we are facing a major transformation, the green transition. It is in our shared interest to make sure this is a just transition, which takes into account all social costs. It is a huge enterprise, which has a disproportionate impact on certain regions of Europe, in particular on countries which are heavily industry dependent. The costs and benefits are not evenly distributed, and European policies, while maintaining high levels of ambition, should reflect this. I am glad that Commission President von der Leyen recognized this in Prague last week. Geopolitical shifts and the green transition must also inform our trade and industrial policies. Together, Europe and its transatlantic partners are still in a position to shape international rules. It is much needed to develop an open strategic autonomy in key areas. Dependency on unreliable or hostile suppliers of energy, technology and raw materials has already proven very costly. It must be our ambition to put ourselves in a position where it will be too painful for our rivals to blackmail us. To this effect, we should double down on our efforts to deepen trade and investment arrangements, first and foremost with like-minded countries across the world. Europe is no longer in the position to impose its notion of the good on the world, as Václav Havel famously reminded us in his Europe as a Task speech in 1996. All the more, we must strive for a deeper alliance of democracies, regardless of geographical distance. In the international arena, we must learn to understand that acceptance of our values will be increasingly hard to obtain. We should therefore not tire of emphasizing the importance of respecting agreed rules. When international law is turned into a mere piece of paper, the road to disaster opens wide. In the Global South, we now have a much different mission. We are facing a treacherous narrative by Russia, which portrays the West as the eternal colonizer, or, to quote Minister Lavrov, as the empire of lies. It is an obvious attempt to turn matters on their head and reframe the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. We need to do all we can to counter this narrative. We need to demonstrate a genuine interest in these regions through a combination of political presence, tailored development assistance, and sustainable commercial trade and investment on an equal basis. Africa remains Europe's natural partner. I therefore welcome the recent announcement of the Commission's new strategic approach. In Africa, Czechia, as a country with no colonial past but enough experience with Russian expansionism, is particularly well placed to play an active part. We can build on our credibility and a solid trademark. Due to historical circumstances, political elites of some of those countries, such as, for example, Mozambique, have received a Czech education. Well, the tasks at hand are many and certainly complex. Yet I believe that our democracies have all the necessary resources to succeed and to thrive. To this end, it is vital to establish ourselves as a genuine political community. We need not only closer coordination at the political and expert level, but also an opening to the wider public. The elections to the European Parliament in 2024 will be the next occasion on which we will be put to the test. It is our common task to strengthen the awareness that Europe and the democratic world are the natural framework for our decision-making. Dear students of Madeleine Albright promotion, as polyglots, cosmopolitans, and people with a healthy degree of ambition, you have a special role to play in this task and a lot of responsibility in your hands. Wherever your lives take you after you leave this hall of the College of Europe, I wish you all the best in this endeavor. Thank you very much for your patience.
Tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this modern world? Or do you need more? Is there something else you're searching for? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I fear myself.
Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill my void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I fear myself. I'm on the deep end, watches I dive in. I never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now.
In the shallow, in the shallow, in the shallow, we're far from the shallow now. Shallow, in the shallow, in the shallow, we're far from the shallow now. In the shallow, in the shallow, in the shallow, we're far from the shallow now.
You cannot imagine how difficult it is to take the words after such a performance. Congratulations. I'm always impressed how talented you can be in so many different fields, studies and singing and playing. Congratulations to you. Before I call our choir on stage for the Ode to Joy, our European item that goes well together with the European flag you showed before, let me express a few words of thanks and recognition to President Pavel that has shared with us, I think, a remarkable speech that I think has given you many, actually has covered the entirety agenda of the European Union policy and the months to come, I think, and has given us, I think, food for thought for the entire academic year. Thank you very much, because I think that this was really something impressive for all of us. Before I get to the conclusion of this opening ceremony, I would like to underline one word that President Pavel mentioned several times in his speech. No surprise, that is responsibility. Together with the privileged position you have here, and you mentioned that, you are lucky to be here, you're lucky to be in this part of the world, you're lucky to be in this place. It's a lot of results that you have achieved yourself, but it's also a recognition of the responsibility you have. Together with the opportunities, you also have the responsibilities. And I'm sure that you will feel this mission somehow, this responsibility, no pressure, not only to succeed in your studies, but also then to give back to your societies, to your institutions, being it local, national, European, international, to improve the state of the communities you're living in, starting from the college community that will be your community during this year, and then hopefully bringing these fruits back to the European integration process you're going to feed with your even more acquired knowledge at the end of this academic year. But the end of the academic year is far away. It will run, but it's still far away now. It is now the moment to conclude this ceremony and declare the academic year 2023-2024, the Madeleine Albright promotion of the College of Europe. I declare the academic year open.